So good morning, District Governor Sohail, District Governor-elect Susan, District Governor nominee Uche, District Governor nominee designate Rob, immediate past District Governor Brenda, past District Governors, Assistant District Governors, Club Presidents, Rotarians, and District Vocational Service Committee, and our guest speaker, Timothy. Welcome to our District 7080 Rotary Vocational Service webinar series. I'm Sunil Sharma, District 7080 Vocational Service Chair, and I'll be your host today. Let me give something overview about vocational services. Vocational services is the cornerstone of Rotary and was the key to the beginning of Rotary ethos of service above self. Rotary's founder Paul Harris recognized that people could use their vocations to help others in the community, and thus Rotary was formed and has been serving its local and international communities for over 100 plus years. The objective of vocational services is to adhere to and promote high ethical standards in all their business dealings, recognize the worthiness of all occupations, contribute individuals' professional expertise and skills to addressing social problems and needs. Today's webinar topic is Service through Vocation, how professionals can give back. I will now request District Governor Sohail to introduce our guest speaker.
Good morning, everybody who is in the session. Good morning, all the Rotarians who are here. I can't say good morning to everybody by name and so, but I still recognize following people, which I can see. It's, Suzanne Zibindan as our district governor-elect, and Uche, our district governor nominee, and Rob Galloway, district governor nominee designate. My role is, Sunil Sharma has pointed out. Thank you, Sunil, for inviting me to introduce Timothy Muttoo. Timothy is known to me for the last 4 or 5 years. We have done some project together, but I will be informally introducing him today. Timothy is a Canadian engineer, entrepreneur, and co-founder of the non-profit charity H2O for All. That's great. H2O is water for all. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful name. Holding a master's degree in public health and a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. Timothy has worked as a licensed engineer in the water sector across North America, where his innovative technologies have positively impacted millions in urban areas. Through H2O for All, Timothy channels his expertise into transforming water, hygiene, and sanitation system in developing countries. He has collaborated directly with over 100 rural communities delivering sustainable solutions across 12 countries. Recognized for his contributions, Timothy has received accolades such as the Grand Challenges Stars in Global Health Awards. Beyond his work with H2O for All, he serves as an engineer, mentor, and active partner with organizations like Engineers of Tomorrow and the United Nations University for Water. Timothy's mission is to inspire action and deliver lasting impact through innovative, sustainable approaches to global water challenges. So here I present my guest speaker, Timothy Muttoo. Let's listen to him, and you can have a Q&A session. I think Sunil Sharma will explain that later, how it works. So here you go, Timothy. You are on the roll.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sohail,
Great.
for introducing. So before Timothy starts, I have a quick thing for everyone. We have a Q&A chat there. If you have any questions, then please put your questions. So Timothy will address at the end of his presentation. All yours, Timothy. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's an excuse me, it's an honor to come via Zoom and to come into your homes or wherever you are. I've had a great time throughout my time with Rotary in different aspects. I've spoken at many Rotary clubs here in Canada. I've even met a lot of Rotarians around the world in my travels. I've spoken at different clubs in Africa, in the continent of Africa. So thank you for having me. We just did recently a project that I'll highlight with the Milton Rotary Club just a few years back. So again, it's a great topic that I will talk about today. And the joy of sharing this topic is I want to challenge you a bit on what I'm going to present. So when I think about before I present, I'm like, well, is the audience going to hear? What are the people that are listening going to receive? And I think it's important that as I go through this journey in the next 20, 30 minutes, or that you kind of think about this in respect to yourself. And I'm going to tell you about a little bit of what kind of happened to me on this journey of life and how I was moved by service through vocation, right? So again, Timothy Muttoo from Mississauga, Ontario, here in Canada. I am the co-founder of an international charity called H2O for All, and I wear the title of Chief Technology and Development. And I get the honor to travel around the world every single year to different countries that we are partnering in. And I wanted to share with you and start this presentation kind of to give you some thoughts, right? Give you some thoughts on what does this mean, service through vocation. And Frederick Buchner, he says, your vocation in life is where your greatest joy meets the world's greatest need. So let's think about that. Your vocation in life is where your greatest joy, that means you feel this inner feeling of joy when you're able to meet some of the world's greatest needs, right? And I think that statement is a great statement that talks about vocation. Service through vocation means you're using your professional skills and talents to contribute to the greater good, aligning your work with a deeper purpose. And I like that statement because service means you're moving, and the third point is action, right? So these are words of movement. You're doing something through your vocation. You're using what you have as your skills. When I think about skills, I get to talk to a lot of students around the world. I get to get guest lecture at different universities. And when I think about skills, I always have this diagram of a toolbox. And in my life, I imagine that I have a toolbox that I carry around in my life. And inside that toolbox throughout my whole life, I've added different skills. I've had different things that I've become good at. Maybe it's becoming, a licensed engineer. Maybe it's becoming a public speaker. Maybe it's becoming somebody that's good at math. All of those skills contribute to what our professional toolbox is, right? And sometimes we don't realize that we all have this professional toolbox that we carry around, but we're just not sure, or we don't know how we're going to be able to use those skills and tools and talents to contribute to what we call the greater good of humanity. And this is what we're talking about today, service through vocation. It's not just about what you do, it's about why you do, right? So when I was going through life, I always thought of different instances about, oh, it's amazing if I become an engineer or become somebody that can make decisions at a company. But it's not just what I was thinking about. I began to realize it was about why I am doing what I'm doing, right? And this is the challenge that a lot of young people, a lot of millennials, Gen Z, they're going into jobs right now saying, well, what about I'm doing this job, but why am I doing it? I have this skill set I went to university for 4 years for, and I'm getting this license or accreditation, but why am I doing this? Right? And we now need to talk about it. And it's becoming an interesting thing in corporations with CSR that now people are asking, I just don't want to do things. I want to know why I'm doing them. And part of this discussion today is service through vocation. So turn your expertise into action for social impact. And this one really spoke to me because when you're listening today, and even people that might watch this later, is when we're talking about service through vocation, you have to make a decision. And I'll talk about this in the next couple minutes. I'm going to get you to do some exercises as well when we walk through this. But this whole discussion is about you as an individual making a decision to put yourself into some type of action, right? So you make a decision to say, well, I have this expertise. I have this ability. I have this way of doing things. I have this knack for things. There's so many different things. And I'm going to make a decision to put that into action so that I can help the greater good. And I think what we're going to tell you today, what I want to leave with you today is it's time to make a decision. And you might say, well, Tim, I don't think the skill set I have is worthy. I don't think I'm worthy to help anybody. But I'm going to challenge you today and say, well, yeah, you are worthy. Whatever giftings you've received in humanity, let's look to see if we can move them along the way to help people to change the world for greater good. Finding fulfillment by serving communities in need while practicing your profession. One of the things that I found while I was an engineer and working for a $2 billion company is I worked with some of the best engineers at that company. They were recognized around the world. They had patents over patents, and I would sit down with them and they were still not fulfilled. And I couldn't understand it. As a young engineer, I said, this is your pinnacle. You've got a great position. You're making a lot of money. You have patents. You have the title. But why are you telling me you're not finding fulfillment? And this is the interesting crossroads that needs to happen, is the intersection between your profession and serving people. And out of serving people, you will find that you're being fulfilled. So what does service through vocation mean to you? I'll ask this a couple times in this next period. What does this mean to you? There we go. So quickly, I'm going to talk about my journey. I'm going to talk about this international charity, as mentioned, called H2O for All. I'm going to challenge you today about you. And then I'm going to end with this little bit about that the impact that you have when you make this decision will be great, right? And my impact's around water. So I want to tell you, well, what exactly was the impact because I made this decision, right? So when it all started, I ended up on the other side of the world in East Africa, and I went and I started volunteering. My whole life, my parents encouraged me to volunteer with different organizations, to volunteer to help, the homeless or to help the needy. And I started to volunteer throughout my whole life to be able to learn from people through this journey. And I ended up in East Africa literally building 4 orphan homes. And this was during the AIDS epidemic, HIV epidemic that occurred. And I learned firsthand of what was going on in these countries, firsthand. And while I was building these homes, I was there for a few weeks. I saw the children come say hi to me, and then they would disappear for hours. And I'm like, what is happening? And they would come to me in the morning and they would disappear and then they would come back. And I started to ask people, I'm like, why are these children gone for hours? And what I started to realize is that their chore to help their families was to go scavenge for water in this local vicinity. And at that point, I was a professional licensed engineer doing water, potable water, drinking water projects all over Canada and the United States, all over this country. And I was like, this is incredible that there's children right now that aren't going to school because they're spending hours getting the water and bringing it back. And it really challenged me at that moment. I said, well, I have the skill. People are paying me money to help them here in Canada and the US to get clean drinking water based on our laws here in the province of Ontario. And this inspired me. That moment inspired me to give back to the community. So I started this organization called H2O for All. And I wanted to know, well, why, you can say, well, why didn't you just volunteer for another water charity? But I had this wanting to do it a little different, and I wanted to implement it in a way that elevated the people that I was helping. So in 2008, 16, we're in our 17th year, we started this work. And this year, just quickly, we've gone into these different communities and helped people with water. The top left one is the joint project with Milton Rotary, where we've set up a water kiosk on the coast of there in Mombasa. So these are projects that we've done to work with the communities that we are partnering with. So again, you can say, well, how does this work, Tim? Well, I'm going to challenge you that this is looking at kind of the end result a little bit, right? When everyone's jumping up and down, everyone's taking pictures, the clean water is flowing, everyone's excited. But there's a lot more when I want to challenge you about thinking about how this works with vocation. When I started H2O for All, I'm just a guy who's an engineer. I have certain skills, but I needed an accountant. I needed a human resource professional. I needed contractors, plumbers, administrators, builders, electricians. The amount of different skill sets that I work with at H2O for All to help people is tremendous. So it's just not about Tim, the engineer, that all of a sudden he was helping people change the world. Well, no, I made a decision to use my skill set to help people, which is my water expertise. But then I needed to find like-minded people who wanted to also give their vocation, to give their skills to help people. Do you kind of get what I mean here? So I made a decision to help people through my skill sets. And then I started to look for people who wanted to do the same. And these are some examples of people that I look for. I look for people that can help the greater mission. So you might say, Tim, I want to work with the homeless. Or Tim, I want to do a feeding program. Or, I want to help people with starting a school in some country. But you can't do it on your own. You're going to have to think about, well, who are these people that you need to work with you to accomplish the greater good that you want to help humanity. And to me, I think this is the secret, or one of the pivotal things that I want to challenge you, is that when you go through life and you're going through your journey of life, is talk to people. Ask them, well, what do you do? What are your skills? What are your abilities? Can we use those for a certain mission? And until you ask somebody, sometimes they don't think about it, right? Like this gentleman here in the yellow shirt, he is the vice president of construction for all of Loblaws. His budget is over $1 billion. And what happened was I challenged him as a vice president of construction for Loblaws to use your abilities, to use your skill sets, to give back, to help people. And he's come on about 8 trips with me to the country of Cuba, where we've installed 20 projects now. So yeah, he has a great title. Yeah, he has a great position. Yeah, he's working for a big company. But what connected with him and what he said, Tim, is I want to use my abilities in construction and my management, my leadership to help what we do. So that's my challenge to you. It's just not about you. It's also about is around you. Who can you encourage to say, you know what? Maybe we can do this together. Maybe we can dream a bit together to use our professional skill sets, to use maybe the company that we have to help people. So our approach, it really, and this is what I've used for 16 years, is to work in a way that I will have a success in helping people. So we always look for a partner on the ground, right? Sometimes they're working with women, sometimes they're working with children, sometimes they're orphanages. Again, I'm an engineer, so I work to build a partnership. Even what we did with Milton Rotary in Mombasa, we were working with Alu Foundation, which is a farm, right? Their expertise is in farming and agriculture is a part of it, right? They also give back to helping women. So there was a lot of skills that they were doing really well at, but they also needed somebody like me to help them on the water side, right? So always think about partnerships. Always think about who you can connect with. Who needs you, right? Because sometimes we go through life and we're like, nobody needs me. Nobody knows I can't help anybody. But think through, who might need you? What ability do you have that you might lend to another charity or another Rotary project or whatever it may be, right? Even at your children's school or, some mentoring that you can do. So we involve the community. One of the things that really got me to start H2O for All is when I started to go in and out of communities, the number one thing that the people in the community told me is that the people that came to help them never talked to them. And I want to make sure you understand my point here. Is there's a lot of people doing great things to help people, but sometimes it's about them than the people. And this is why I like the statements about service above self. So when I started to travel in Zambia and Uganda and Kenya and in West Africa, and I would sit down in these mud huts and I would say, tell me about what's going on. And they would say, well, these people came, but they didn't value me. They didn't respect me. They didn't treat me the way I thought they would. Meanwhile, they're the people we're helping, right? So you can't not include the people you're helping. So if you have a vision to help people, the number one thing you should do is get to know the people you want to help, include them, talk to them. And that service above self is what we're talking about here. It's not about your degree. When I go into villages, I'll tell you this. When I go around the world, I never tell them I'm an engineer. I never tell them, as you introduced me, I have a master's in this and a license in this. I just tell them I'm here to be your friend. I'm here to come alongside of you. I'm here to listen to you, and we're going to do this together to change your community and the path that you're going. And that is what we're talking about in humbling. Technology. There's a lot of technology going on right now with AI, robotics, if you guys are into that. There's all sorts of crazy things going on very rapidly in our technology. But I will tell you this, we need people that are technology buffs that know technology that can relate it to somebody who they're helping, right? So there's no point giving $1 million robot to a place that doesn't need a robot. During the earthquake of Haiti that happened many years ago, I was have friends that live in Haiti helping people, and they told me this that's really stuck to me. They said, Tim, when the earthquake happened and the world started to want to help us, they sent us a bunch of stuff we didn't need. They didn't listen to us. They didn't ask us. So they started sending them halogen lights and starting sending them extension cords. They started sending the people of Haiti things that they didn't need. And you started having this garbage problem. So with technology, and you here might be listening, you might be an expert in a certain tech. You might have the knowledge of the tech. The biggest thing you need to do is say, is that tech appropriate for the person I'm helping or the village I'm helping or for that? And if it's not, then we're not doing it correctly, right? So my mom, I remember getting her an iPad, and I remember, well, this is wonderful. The best invention is the iPad. You can do anything, but until I taught my mom, and my mom's very, knows what she, but until I taught her how to use it, it was just sitting around, right? Training and empowerment. Some of you might have these abilities to train people, to empower people. You might have a way of how you talk to people, how you care for people, how you listen for people. And this is very important that when we are introducing the change of going and acquiring dirty water and how to now start a life of using clean water, it takes time. Training also goes around the water systems that, for example, that we install. Are we training these people not on a master's degree level, not on a university degree level, but are we training them on the level that they have? A lot of the people I work with are illiterate. They've never been to school. And it doesn't matter that I am an engineer. What matters is how I train them and how I bring the knowledge to them. And some of you in this call might say, you know what, Tim? Um, um, I I have the ability to empower people or train people, right? I have the ability to use simplistic terms. I have the ability to do that. And we need you, right? Implementation, some of my project sites, we have 100 people on site some days because we're using diggers, we're using tradespeople, we're using plumbers, we're using electricians, we have well drilling. So project management, just like the gentleman from Loblaws, some of those skill sets around organization, some of those financial skill sets, some of those leadership skills, some of those communication skills all come around in implementation, right? So you might say, well, Tim, I'm great with numbers. I'm great with spreadsheets. I'm great with managing money. People can use your skill sets, right? Governance is also very important that when we implement a project, we want to make sure it's running after a month or 2 months. We want to make sure it's operating, just like the project in Mombasa. We had some hiccups in Mombasa. We had some things we had to deal with when did that project and got it going, right? But it took some time, right? We wanted to make sure that we did things properly, right? So now that project is running very well. But it took the dedication to make sure, are we doing it correctly? Do we have the right protocols, very simplistic protocols and some things in place, right? So at this point, you've listened to me, a guy from Mississauga, grows up in Canada, ends up traveling around the world, was an expert or is an expert in water, um, was challenged by what he saw, came back and said, well, let me form a community of people that I can work with to form a charity that we can help people around the world. We work in over 12 countries. We've impacted over 1.2 million people. And that is not because of me, but it's because of all of the people that we work together with, right? So the story is not about Tim as much as it's about Tim saying, well, I want to do something to help people. I want to learn about the people I want to help. I want to include the people I want to help, but I also want to create a community of people that want to work with me to help people, right? So I'm going to ask you just in a couple seconds that you can say, you know what? I want to think about 5 things that I'm good at, 5 things that you excel at, right? And kind of think about them in your mind. And you might say, well, I'm good with computers, or I'm good with accounting. I'm good with I do some odd jobs fixing at my house. Or I'm a licensed accountant, whatever it may be, right? Think of those 5 things that you might possess, or they might be part of you, right? Now, when you place those 5 things in your mind, or you might have a piece of paper and write them down, I want to think about, well, what does that mean of how you can use one or two of them or all of them to make a difference in humanity, right? So the biggest thing in life is what I would say is we are living in such a rapid progression. You know, I thought after the pandemic that life would slow down. I'd be like, woo, we're now going to slow things down. We're going to take things a bit easier. We're going to get more time with our families. We're going to have more meaningful moments. We're going to slow this machine down because we had to stop. I find that people are even busier now. And what I want to tell you and encourage you is you need to take a moment for yourself to ask yourself, well, what are those things that I can identify? Because if I think about 2024, it went by pretty quickly. So I challenge you at the beginning of this year, right? We're at the beginning of 2025. Take a day, take a weekend and say, well, I'm going to think about the things that I have the abilities are, and then I'm going to identify that I'm willing to give them for the greater good, not for my glorification, not for me to get a raise, not for me to tell everybody, not for me, but for me to give this gift or talent to somebody else. And I encourage you to do that in the month of January so that you can think about how you can do that throughout the year, right? So 5 things think about. And then see how you can use those 5 things to help humanity, right? I want to show you a video. I still got some time here. I want to show you a little bit about the work we do. The latest work we're doing is in Kenya. I literally have been on WhatsApp calls and emails to get this work going. And this work that we do across the world isn't simple, right? It's not like here in Canada, you just tell a contractor you want something done and it's done. And if they don't do it, you don't pay them type deal. What happens across the world when we're trying to help people, we need these skills to be very organized. We need to be very specific. We need to be able to work with people of different cultures and ethnicities and understanding and education levels. And that is part of the skills. So this is something happening, a wonderful project in Kenya. We're trying to help some children and also help the greater community of about 10,000 people. And I'm going to show you this video. It's about 3 minutes long. And you can get an idea of what we do.
Timothy, I can't hear the volume.
This is our first well, initial well that we started with. The well was not fully done and it cannot deliver much water. The water that we can have within 24 hours is like 100 liters of water only. There are several challenges we have experienced due to using this water because it is contaminated water, it is dirty, and so the children have been suffering from gastrointestinal infections like typhoid, cholera, amoeba.
Here in school, we find it very hard even to go to class sometimes because we lack water. Sometimes we find us walking around approximately 10 kilometers in order to look for water. Sometimes we don't even find water to drink. And it is very hard for us even to go to class. We sometimes miss class even for around 2 days just in order for looking for water.
The wells we have produce 100 liters of water in 24 hours. That has forced us to dig another well, which can deliver around 800 liters of water in a day. So that water cannot be enough to care for the population. We have 308 children.
The problem I'm facing in the school is water. I've got 1 borehole and 2 tanks, which cannot serve the population, especially during the rainy season. Sometimes I have difficulties serving the community too, because the community will have to come and maybe they'll need drinking water from the tanks. So there's a time when there's that conflict between the learners and the community.
Me, as a person living with disability, sometimes I might be home alone and no way I can get water. So from today, I'm happy with the group. If they say they are going to get us water, I'm very happy.
We are requesting the donors, if they can assist us to get water that can be there constantly all the year round. We shall be very grateful. And this one will help the learners plus the community around.
So, well, there we go. I wanted to show that video just to show you something very simple, that it's just not a water engineer that makes an impact on a community. There's a group of people coming together to work with that school and those children to have the greatest impact. And that's kind of where we need everybody. We need whatever skills you might have, whatever you might think that you might not be good at, or whatever. Again, I don't know how people think of themselves, but you know, we all have something to give. We all have something to be able to give that's above ourselves and to humanity without wanting anything back. We give without wanting anything back. So when I started to do this work, again, the decision I made, right? The decision I made is I wanted, working at a $2 billion company, I wanted to give back to the world, right? I left that job and I started a charity. This is what I do now. I'm not saying everyone has to leave their jobs, but I think we all need to make a decision on how we can do something to help people that are never going to help us, right? So why I wrote this part is because it was the catalyst for transformation. So you might think about something and you might say, you know, Tim, I want to change the world, or I want to change a community, or I want to change a child's life. And you can think about how your skill set will do that, right? So my water expertise is now lending to improving health and reduction of disease. It's enhancing education. It's changing the economic makeup of that community. It's changing everything to do with women and girls, you know, in that community, and it's strengthening the community. So there might be some things that I'm talking about water today. You might say, well, Tim, my passion is about education or girls or whatever it may be. And then think about what the result is, right? Because when you give beyond yourself, you are gonna make great change. So reflect, think about your journey, right? I don't know you who are listening and watching. I don't know your journey. Only you know. You've known what's happened in your whole life. Where is that intersection point between your expertise and helping humanity? Has it intersected yet? Yeah, you might be part of Rotary, but is it very specific in your mind that you say, well, here is the intersection that I'm an accountant and I'm using that skill to do this, or I'm a mason and I'm using that to do this. So I want you to think about, where is your intersection? And if you don't have an intersection yet, think about it, right? Think about how you can create that intersection. How can you make a difference? What steps can you take to give back to humanity, right? Because we all ended up here, we all ended up in where we are, is thinking about how we can do it. So I'm concluding now. I have a couple minute or two. I'm going to challenge you on what you can do, right? this is what I did when my parents, who I thank very much, they got me involved in volunteering since I was young, very young. And I would help with doing food and doing helping other kids. I was a mentor for different people. I did so many different things that I began to understand a bit better about the plight of people I didn't know. So volunteer for a group. I saw something on the chat. Maybe it's volunteering that Rotary is going to connect you with, right? Volunteer something that's bigger, right? Join an organization. If you're an engineer, you might be able to design something. If you're a healthcare worker, you might be able to participate in an outreach program, right? These are just examples. If you're a marketer or PR specialist, raise awareness, right? You're tech people, develop an app or a website for social causes. If you're a mentor for our next generation, maybe you can share knowledge and inspire young professionals. Join local initiatives, participate in community cleanups, tree planting, or food drives. What I want to leave you is no effort is too small. Every action contributes to some positive change. So I just want to say thank you to each of you for listening. My challenge to you, though, is to take some time. Slow down your life enough that you can take some time to think about you and what you possess in terms of a skill or something that you can give to humanity, and then figure out a way that you can do that. So my encouragement to you is when I did that, it changed my whole life. It changed everything for me. And it's one of the most exciting things that's ever happened to me when I made the decision to start to look at my skills being transferred and looking at my vocation to help some people. So thank you very much. I will pass it over to the moderator if anyone has any questions.
Thank you so much, Timothy. It was great insights from you on vocational services webinar. And now we'll open the lines for everyone. So it'll take about some time to unmute yourself. So we'll open the lines and the recording will be available on our district portal, district7080.org under vocational services. So if anyone have any questions, please raise your hand so we can go one by one and your lines will be unmuted. Yeah, we see Farhan. Farhan, go ahead.
Great, thanks, Tim. That was really, really encouraging to hear what you said. And most of what you said is what Rotary does.
Yeah.
And I think Rotary is very well positioned from a grassroots level to help organizations like yours and others who want to do projects and implementations, all the way from involving communities to post implementation for sustainability as well. So again, thank you so much. And for those that are listening in, the project that he talked about in Mombasa is with our ALU Foundation, which I'm a part of as well. It's my family's foundation, and it has been serving the community really, really well. So, first-hand experience, Tim and his team were very professional, did an amazing job, and the community is really appreciative of what's happening there. So thanks, Tim. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Farhan. And Farhan is also part of our vocational service committee. And thank you so much, Farhan, for your inputs and your support on everything we do. I see some questions from Doug Vincent as well. Doug, we would like to unmute yourself.
Hi, folks. Timothy, a great presentation. I really like your approach about encouraging members to give above themselves and to find fulfillment in their careers through serving. I think those are two key points that you expressed very well. A great presentation. I just want to refocus that we're not really talking about water projects here. We're talking about giving of yourself and using the water as an example. And there's all sorts of opportunities that people may not realize. For example, my wife is a retired maxillofacial surgeon and dentist, so we often go on medical dental mission trips. Another example of giving oneself. But when you're looking at the skills you have, you very adequately explained that there's a whole mixture of competencies and skills needed. So people, when we invite people to go, they think, well, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I can't join you. But like, I'm not a doctor and a nurse, and I go and I'm kind of like crowd control, and somebody else needs to help feed lunch to the workers. Somebody needs to do the registration. Somebody needs to do the grunt work and the logistics. So there's all sorts of opportunities. Like Rotary is a smorgasbord of opportunities to do exactly what you described. And I did make a comment that right now Rotary has an initiative to provide water to every community in the country of Haiti. And a friend of mine, past director John Smarge, would just love to connect with you, and you could collaborate together. I've been to Haiti working on these projects. In fact, Rotary has 2 water well rigs that were sent to Haiti likely 10 or 15 years ago. And so I think there's a lot of good collaboration, and your idea of partnerships. I mean, we've got partners with clubs and districts in all corners of the world, but there's all sorts of other partnerships with folks like you that would be very beneficial to help those in need. So keep up your great work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug Vincent. Thank you so much for having your questions as well here. We have Rob as well, Rob Galloway. He has also some questions. You want to unmute yourself, Rob?
Terrific. Thanks, Tim. A very thoughtful presentation. It is certainly making, I'm sure, all of us think a little bit about vocation and how to be involved. So also very strategic. It was a great way to present this. I said some micro questions. Is Rotary involved with your organization? Maybe explain a little bit the Milton Project, just to give us sort of a frame of reference. Who's funding this? I assume Rotary with the Milton Project. How did you select your team from the Milton Rotarians? What's the time frame? Just a general overview to give us an idea of a project.
Yeah, so we had a project that we presented to the Milton Rotary Club, and then it took some time for us to work with them. Obviously, I think, I don't know if it was 3 clubs or there's a couple of clubs that came together to fund it. So we kind of worked with them through the specifics. From the Rotary side, there was a bit of a procedure in terms of the application and the timing and that. And then once the money was acquired, then we kind of did the implementation. So it did take, I would say about a year, I'd say, if I'm correct, Farhan.
It's about 3 years ago.
3 years ago, but it took from beginning to end,
yeah,
I think about a year of working with the club.
Actually, Rob, I can, sorry.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Is a district grant. We got a district grant for a water project in Kenya because we are bringing water from Alu Foundation farms or something like that to the closest to the community where their people are working there. So that's a big project, and it was successfully completed with the help of Timothy's his own help and his own services and his company services, and it's successfully completed. So it's basically a district grant from the Rotary 7080 that we used for that project.
And how many Rotarians were involved? Did you meet with them, Tim? And how were Rotarians involved?
Yeah, you mean in Kenya or you mean here in Canada?
Yeah, I'll start both because we know it's both sides.
Yeah, so in Canada, I had regular meetings throughout the process. and I presented at the club a couple times. So we're very much in sync the whole time. And then there was a Rotary Club also down in Mombasa. So it was very much in sync. So I wasn't by myself at all. Even with all the planning and the finances and all of that, we did it. It was almost, I would say it was just done together. So a great team up in down there in Milton. Great people. So yeah, it was just done in collaboration, if that's the best way to say it.
And after you decided the project, put the project plan together, you worked with the folks in Kenya. How long did the project take? And then do you do follow-up? I know these are sort of micro questions, but
yeah, no, that's good.
That'll be my last one. But
yeah. So, as we, basically we designed the project based on also the model of completing it in a certain amount of time. Obviously, we have a lot of experience in this, and then we commissioned it. I went to Kenya. I was in Kenya for another project, so I coordinated being there as well when we commissioned. But the project had started before I got there. So again, these projects are just coordinated very well. We worked with the Alu Farms, who did a really great job with us and getting everything done. We worked in the hiring of local, plumbers and masons and electricians and building it. And then the Alu Farm also commit to working with us and staffing the kiosk. So it's a water kiosk. So, it's all, I would just say it's just collaborative.
Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, if you ever want to reach out to me separately, please do. You can, yeah.
Thank you, Rob. I see Farhan has raised his hand. Farhan?
Yeah, so if I may add to this, being part of the Alu Foundation, what I will say that I was really impressed with Timothy's team. Like I said, they're very professional. They came in to do an assessment first. They took about a week on the ground assessing, meeting with the community members. And the Alu Foundation is where this project was. It's on our family farm. And, we had a well that was pumping out a lot of water. But at the end of the day, it wasn't what we call clean water. It was drinkable and usable for daily chores at home and stuff. And then there was a lot of lessons learned. Like Timothy said, we had a lot of hiccups. We built the tower to supply water with regards to pressure. We had a water filtration system put in, which was solar powered. Again, we had to think of all these things that was not generating any expenses, right? And it would be self-sustaining. And then even at the kiosks, I have done many of these water projects where we have kept them as service, where people come and open the tap, they get water, and then they go home. But then what we realized is after a few months, the taps would get stolen. So again, these are lessons learned. And then now we have somebody at the kiosk managing all this and opening the doors for people to come in the morning, pick everything, and in the evening they close the doors. So there is that level of, attention that's required, and that's all based on past experiences. So again, there's a lot that we have to do with involving the communities to make sure that we put in place systems that can help be self-sustaining. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Farhan. I appreciate that. Any other questions? We have about 5 minutes time. So I see there is no more questions. So I will now request our District Governor-elect Susan to give us a thank you note.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tim, for this very interesting and extremely inspiring presentation. I learned a lot, and I am certain that many of us who are present here will accept the challenge to find out what people do that they meet in daily life and how they could possibly go beyond their own profession and vocation to help any of the projects, and how they could assist in any of the projects. I personally found it extremely inspiring that you approach people that will benefit from your projects with a special kind of humility and respect, and that you go to those communities and find out what they need, not tell them what they need, but what it is they need and how they would like to be helped. It's easy for us to go there and give them something that it makes us feel better, but it does not benefit them at all. And I really hope that is something that we all can take away from this. So there we have it. Thank you for this presentation. Thank you for your work you do, and for being such an inspiration to many. And I hope that some of the people that are attended here will reach out and contact you for possibly some projects in the future with their clubs or with communities. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you,
See you
Susan.
all again.
Thank you, Timothy, once again for being as our guest today and educating us on vocational services to what you do for the community. Appreciate your support here. And I also want to thank everyone who joined, as well as our vocational service committee at the district. Thank you everyone for your support.